Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. This is, of course, D-Rock's channel. My name is Derek Rogers, aka D-Rock, and we're going to be talking about digital ID, the mark of the beast, and what is going on in this world. All of this relating to Kier Starmer's crazy words just a few days ago when he said the following.
Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
My king's coming back.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
So, of course, people are getting upset over this. We want to dig into this a little bit. We want to look at why people are scared about this, what the biblical implications are, whether there are any really connections between the mark of the beast and what's happening here, and whether we should be concerned. Also, what other countries are headed in this direction? And there seems to be a lot of them, including the one I'm in, which is not the UK. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the stories on this. So this is a story we just watched there. Kier Starmer, this gent says, Kier says, you won't be allowed to work without a digital ID. This is beyond totalitarian. It's the blueprint for a Chinese-style social credit system. Every freedom-loving Briton should be outraged at Labour. If this stands, Britain as a free country is finished. So a lot of people concerned about what's happening here, and I would say rightly so. It is the beginning of something much more terrifying. However, I don't think we're there yet, and we'll get into that a little bit. A while back, actually 2 years ago, Jordan Peterson was on Theo Vaughn's weekend, I forget what he calls it, the weekend show or whatever it is. And they got talking about, identity online and that type of stuff. And then they got into a discussion of digital ID. And that also brought up some interesting points here. So basically, this is from Wide Awake Media. They posted it here, but I also posted a clip on my X account as well. But basically it says it'll bring in a totalitarian tyranny so 100% complete that would make George Orwell's 1984 look like a picnic. So that's just a quote from one of the things Jordan says here. Now, by the way, those of you who may not know, Jordan Peterson has been going through some health issues. His daughter was recently posting on social media to pray for Jordan Peterson because there's some issues that he's had. They're not sure what it is. So just be aware, please pray for Jordan Peterson. We need his voice in this world. Let's listen into what he had to say.
I think it would bring in, and it has already in China, I think it'll bring in a totalitarian tyranny so 100% complete that it would make George Orwell's 1984 look like a picnic.
So now that he's talking about some very specific things, he also, I'm not sure if in that clip it mentions it, but he talks about knives being chained down in parts of China. I looked that up. Apparently that is actually true, but it's like restaurants and stuff where knives are chained down so people can't take them and use them. And it is basically a social credit system where it's tied to your digital ID. Everywhere you go, you're tracked. Everything you do, if your social credit is good enough, then you can do certain things. You may not be allowed to travel if your credit's too low. They can restrict your access to, like you said, vending machines, all types of different things. This is insanity, but it's fully capable. Like, you would think this is ridiculous. Who would ever go to this level of, I don't know what you call it, but it's a meticulous control that's just over the top. However, digital systems make this possible now with AI integration. You can control masses of people, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of mistakes, You remember here in Canada, we had the Freedom Convoy. We had, for the first time in Canadian history, where the government disagreed with a protest and decided to freeze bank accounts of the people they disagreed with, and actually put pressure on banks to shut down and freeze their bank accounts. That was over the top dystopian tyranny against a peaceful protest. It was the most bizarre thing, and it put shockwaves of government fear across the world, not just in Canada. There were countries all over the world noting this on the news and like, what is going on in Canada? This is where this type of stuff is heading, and this is why people are so concerned. I'll get to what happened in the UK since Keir Starmer announced this. There's actually been a huge petition with millions of people signing it to stop this. We'll get to that in a second, but here's a warning from Jim Ferguson here. Oh, you can't see that on the screen. Anyways, he's saying digital ID was China's first step. It became the foundation of their social credit system, and now the West is copying it. Well, not yet. We're not fully there, but you can see it happening, right? One mistake and you lose your bank, your job, your family, your freedom. Reject it totally, he says. So here's what he's referring to. This is actually a video from France on what's happening in China.
Score brings benefits, but people with low scores lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens.
It's a matter of principle. Those people have to be condemned.
Those people aren't honest, so they have to pay the price.
It's only right to pay your debts. You have to blacklist those that don't.
The Supreme Court has created a blacklist for so-called bad citizens, those whose ratings have dropped to 0.
Just want to make a comment about that. So people are being doxxed, their faces put up on public display. You know, these are the bad ones that have broken the rules. This is so 1984. This is just crazy. And these people are cheering it on. Why? Because they don't want to be doxxed themselves. So, yes, of course, we got to get all the bad people, and I'm not one of them. And we saw this happening during COVID, when people were calling hotlines and turning their neighbors in for having a guest over, or, not social distancing like they should be. And you can see it happening here in the West as well, because once there's that fear and that power over you, then you will comply and you will make sure everybody else complies. And this is how the tyranny works, right? Let's keep watching.
On it are companies, but also 23 million people to date. Among them is this journalist, Liu Hu. He got a little too close to uncovering corruption among high-profile party members. After being sued for defamation by the subject of a story he'd written, he was blacklisted. He only realized when he tried to buy a train ticket and was told he was banned from traveling.
That tells me I'm still on the blacklist.
Punished because he's been branded untrustworthy by the state.
Once you're blacklisted, you can no longer get a bank loan, start a business, buy an apartment, or even send your children to a private school.
Liu Hu is among a tiny minority of people who have dared to criticize the system, which some are calling a digital dictatorship.
I worry, because I think many people like me will be deprived of individual freedoms.
You think? You are being deprived of individual freedom. You're being debanked, you're being controlled, you can't travel, you don't have the proper credentials anymore. You are a journalist. So this is what people are fearing is going to happen here. It's going to happen in the UK. They're fearing it's going to happen in other places in the Western world, that this is kind of where things are heading. And you can just see how as governments get more and more technological, they have more and more opportunities to control the population. Another thing I wanted to look at was this gentleman here, the former vice president of Pfizer, Dr. Mike Yeadon, and he's urging UK to reject the digital ID and the UN Agenda 2030. And we're going to talk about another agenda, which is the Agile Nations, which multiple countries are a part of, including the UK, who's kind of heading it. And Canada, where I am, is also a part of that. So let's listen into Dr. Mike Yeadon.
We are living in a peri-tyrannical situation where there's only 2 clicks left when you are required to have digital ID to move around and have a life, and when cashless central bank digital currencies are the only way you can buy and sell. At that point, you've lost your freedom. If you follow the breadcrumbs to 2030, anyone can look up the UN 2030 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. By 2030, Britain specifically will have no commercial passenger aircraft leaving the country. You will not be able to leave. There will be no ships leaving the country. You will not own private transport. You will have a digital ID to do everything, and you will only have electronic money with which to transact. I would say at that point you are a slave, and because you can see them coming, you should say no. Say no right now. Stop. The things that are happening are really fantastic, but they go back decades. There's no question that there's been a very long run-up to the level of control that we are going to face if we allow cash to be winked out of existence.
So this is where it gets into interesting territory, because it's not just the UK and the EU nations that are doing this. It's not just Canada getting involved, but the United States is also moving towards digital currencies with Trump. Trump's moving hard into digital currencies. He's a big fan of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And you can see how that would be implemented for the citizens, some sort of digital currency that is fully trackable and used by the government to easily, at the push of a button, control you. So even Trump, even the US has this potential to go down this road. They may be behind some of the other nations, but here's what's happening. He was saying to resist this, this Dr. Yeadon, I should say. He's saying to resist it. And here's what actually happened. The UK government responded to this petition. So look at this. This petition right here. Here we go. This is what I was referring to. This is a petition to the UK government and Parliament. Do not introduce digital ID cards. We demand that the UK government immediately commits to not introducing a digital ID cards. I don't know why it's pluralized. There are reports that this is being looked at. Then there's more details there, but sign this petition. Look at how many people have signed it. 2,755,246 people. What was the response of the UK government? Parliament considers all petitions that get more than 100,000 signatures for a debate. The government responded on October 2nd, 2025. We will introduce digital ID within this Parliament to help tackle illegal immigration, make accessing government services easier, and enable wider efficiencies. We will consult on details soon. So in other words, screw you, 2,755,000 people. We are going ahead with it anyways. The UK government responds to the petition. The government's response, we will introduce this digital ID anyways. This isn't a democracy. Nobody voted for it. Digital ID wasn't in the manifesto. This is absolute in-your-face tyranny, and Kier Starmer is a dictator managing a dictatorship. Pretty harsh words there, but people are ticked. and I would say rightly so. Now, others that have had comments on this, there was a recent Joe Rogan podcast where he talked about this a little bit as well. Let's take a look at that.
Ultimately, what you're seeing in other countries is moving to digital IDs. This is just implemented in Europe and in the UK. You're seeing it in a lot of places where you're going to have to need that to work and vote and travel. And it'll be even more of a constriction on your ability to express yourself, particularly when you think about the UK, which has had more than 12,000 arrests for very mild social media posts.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, I can't believe it. I've been watching this stuff play out.
You're seeing a complete, total attack on one of the most fundamental principles of the Western world, which is your ability to express yourself and your ability to call out that you think that the policies that are being implemented in your country are destructive. That's people have always been able to do that. These people are not calling for violence. They're being arrested for wild things. People are being arrested for liking posts. They're being some people were investigated for viewing posts. 12,000 people arrested by the police in the UK, the same place that just implemented digital ID. I mean, this is an Orwell nightmare coming to life right in front of our face, and no one's flinching. If you look at what's going on, like in the UK, what they're learning over there is that they are in a tyrannical government, and it's slowly but surely. It's got its back, it's got the hooks in, and it's putting the rear naked choke in. It's got them locked up, and they've got to do something about that.
Why do you think that's happening?
Why? Because of what we talked about, power and control and resources. And a very limited amount of people are controlling a huge amount of people. This is all the same thing that happens with kings and with emperors. It's control. You got to limit the people's ability to rebel, limit their ability to gather resources, keep them at each other's throats ideologically, keep them fighting over the dumbest shit possible. Meanwhile, closer and closer and closer to total control of the population, where they're even openly stating it. Hillary Clinton said in an interview, if we can't control social media, we lose control. You're not supposed to have control over other human beings. You're going to lose the thing you're not supposed to have. An elected official is supposed to be a representative for the people. You're supposed to be a person who's a public servant.
So we saw that with the Biden administration, and with specifically coming out of Obama and Hillary and the Clintons, this censorship and pushing on social media to control people. Thousands of people, censored on social media platforms. Everything from the Hunter Biden thing to COVID-19, people that disagreed with how the shots were rolled out and what you had to do. People being censored all over the place. There was pressure put on. Joe Rogan himself remember that he was made to look green. They actually changed the color after he took ivermectin and some other more natural supplements to help with his COVID-19 on doctor's orders. His own doctor ordered it, but they were, going to claim that he took horse paste and he almost lost, almost got taken right down. They're going to kick him off of Spotify. I believe there were episodes taken down. Of course, Steve Bannon was banned off of Spotify. Mark Zuckerberg recently revealed how much the Biden administration was pressuring him to remove people and stories off of the platform. And so this government overreach has already been demonstrated. The Twitter files, of course, when Elon Musk took over Twitter, renamed it to X, and brought people back on that have been banned, it became very clear just how much the government was involved. And so this tyrannical system is very much a real thing and a reality that could happen easily through digital ID in a much worse way, as we saw with the convoy and with people being debanked for protesting in a peaceful demonstration that the government didn't like. This is where it gets scary, folks. This is why people are so upset. Interestingly, Joe Rogan defended Jimmy Fallon about it. Now, here's something else. This is from the BBC, just talking about the actual digital ID stipulations, I guess, in the UK. So what's the reason that they're doing it there? Well, they're saying it's for immigration. Okay, so will digital ID be compulsory, and what else could it be used for? Digital ID will be available to all UK citizens and legal residents and mandatory in order to work. Okay, so it'll be available, but mandatory to work. However, for students, pensioners, or others not seeking work, having a digital ID will be optional. Okay, so hey, those that don't want to work. Officials also stress it will not function like a traditional identity card. People will not be required to carry it in public, but it'll be an app on your smartphone. So you can see that will be required at some point. Ministers have ruled out requiring the ID for access to healthcare or welfare payments. However, the system is being designed to integrate with some government services to make applications simpler and reduce fraud, of course, and that's what will happen. It's for safety, it's for immigration purposes, but now, hey, it's so much easier to just use that, right, for everything. The government said that in time, digital IDs would make it easier to apply for services such as driving licenses, childcare, welfare, and it said it would also simplify access to tax records. The government said they could also be used to streamline verification processes across private sectors, for example, when opening a bank account. Okay, so these are just, some of the things that could be coming. Which other countries already have ID cards? The UK government said it will take the best aspects of digital ID systems used elsewhere around the world, including Estonia, Australia, Denmark, and India. Here in Canada, we have, if you need to have a police check done, that's what I was thinking of. In Canada, they have a digital form of that now through an app, and they're making that kind of the main thing. It's almost much, much harder to actually get the paperwork to fill out to get approved. So now they're kind of moving towards this digital push. Many other countries also use digital ID of one kind or another, including Singapore, Greece, France, Bosnia and Herzegovina, United Arab Emirates, China, Costa Rica, South Korea, and Afghanistan. Notice they put China towards the end of the list there. They don't want to affiliate with what China's doing, but we all know where this is going. So why are some people against digital ID? Civil liberties groups argue that even a limited digital ID could pave the way for a more intrusive system, raising concerns about privacy, data security, and government overreach. Big Brother Watch, alongside 7 other organizations, has written to the Prime Minister urging him to abandon the plan, saying it will push unauthorized migrants further into the shadows. More than 2.4 million people have signed the petition against introducing digital ID cards on the UK Parliament website. Okay, so that's saying 2.4. It was 2.75. Petitions that get more than 100,000 signatures are considered for a debate in Parliament. Other prominent critics include the former Conservative Cabinet Minister David Davis, who campaigned against Labour's ID card scheme in the 2000s. He said no system is immune to failure and warned governments and tech companies have repeatedly failed to protect people's data. And that's the other big thing, is once you have this centralized data system, likely going to be tied into AI, so you can quickly look up things and find things on people. That data system itself could easily be breached, and then all that data is released to nefarious hands that can use it for mischievous purposes. So that's definitely a possibility, especially with the government in charge, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about another thing called Agile Nations. Now, this is something that a Conservative member of Parliament here in Canada has been bringing up, because Canada is part of this Agile Nations group, and it's an intergovernmental regulatory cooperation network designed to foster cooperation on innovative regulatory practice between participating governments. The network focuses on the testing and development of new solutions to make it easier for businesses to introduce and scale innovations across different markets while upholding upholding protections for citizens and environment. They also are looking at digital IDs as part of this. And guess who is not a country that's involved, but an overlooking body of this whole thing? The WEF. The Davos people are part of this and pushing the agenda. So there's 7 nations involved right now. The Agile Nations is an intergovernmental regulatory cooperation network, 7 countries that focused on it. The UK is one of the founding members, along with Canada, Denmark, Italy, Singapore, Japan, and the UAE. The UAE is the current chair. And so if the UK is implementing this digital ID by force, which it appears to be, and it's not set in stone yet. Like it could be that there's enough backlash that they stop it. I hope that's the case, but that means that it's coming here as well. And there's been talk of it. The government website has all types of stuff about digital ID. There's been discussions of it. Right now, they're denying it. Liberal Party is denying that they're moving in that direction. But there's all types of documentation on the website, government website, that talks about it. And Dr. Leslyn Lewis on the Conservative Party, one of the MPs, has been warning about this exactly, and she's been doing a lot of research on Canada's involvement. So this is something, here's a little bit more on it. User-centric digital wallets. Okay, so digital identity initiatives under this framework involve sharing best practices, testing new solutions like user-centric digital wallets, and developing policy frameworks to support development of trustworthy, accessible, and interoperable national and international digital identity systems. So this is all part of this Agile Nations sharing ideas, testing solutions, focused on user-centric models, cross-border interoperability, supporting trusted digital identities. The focus is on developing and implementing digital identity systems that are trustworthy, secure, and accessible to all citizens. So here we go, folks. This is where we're heading. What does this mean? Now, probably the scariest thing about this is the fact that the Bible talks about the mark of the beast. And of course, me being somebody who's interested in end time events and what the Bible says, and how the seasons are coming to fulfillment repeatedly in the real world according to Scripture, we know that this is coming. Now, the good news is that what the Bible shares the mark of the beast is, and what the UK is doing right now, is not the same thing. However, you can see that it's heading that way. So let's take a look at what Revelation 13 says here, because it talks about these beasts that come up, and this is very figurative language, so it's hard to interpret what exactly it's talking about. Is this actually a physical being? Is this governments that it's talking about? But it does seem to imply government power, especially when you get to the second beast. So here's the first beast. It says, "The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had the feet like those of a bear, and the mouth of that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority." And this is like the seat of world government. The dragon being the devil. Yeah, the woman and the dragon. War broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back. The dragon is the ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, right there in chapter 12, verse 9. And he's hurled down, the ancient serpent called the devil is hurled down to the world, and he leads the whole world astray. So this is what he's talking about. So this is now going into the future. So that's something that's already happened. Now looking into the future, it talks about this beast that comes out of the sea. All of this, symbolic wording is interesting when it talks about heads with crowns, which indicates government authority. And one of those heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound. The fatal wound was healed. The whole world was filled with wonder when they see this happen. So these things haven't exactly happened yet, at least not in the direct interpretation of that. If it is a king that appears to get killed and then healed, that hasn't happened. Somebody might say, well, Trump got shot in the ear, but this seems to be a much more fatal wound it's talking about. And the people worship the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. They also worshiped the beast and asked, who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it? The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place. So there's very much a tie to the spirit of the Antichrist and a hatred towards God. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them, and it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. Whoever has ears, let him hear. If anyone is to go into captivity they'll go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. So this is a terrible time that it's talking about, and it's an over-the-top control and slaughter of godly people. It says, then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth, and it had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. It performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark or a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and that number is 666. So that is a very interesting portion of scripture. And, it talks about the beast that was killed coming to life, and then an image that's able to speak. So you can almost see in this some of the technology we have now, where our AI video, our AI robots, humanoid bots, are getting to this point now where basically they can make dead people alive. They can recreate them. You can bring images, of your deceased grandparents to life. And even if you had a recording of their voice, you could train the AI to have their voice and speak to you and have a knowledge base of types of things that those people believed or taught or spoke. And the AI would talk just like them in their voice. This is where we're at. So this could be what it's talking about. Is it a real being that comes to life, or is it some sort of AI generated image that comes to life? All of these things are just interesting. But the point here, talking about the digital ID system, is that in this case, he gives the mark of the beast and no man can buy or sell by it. But it's tied to this whole rejection of God, and that we're not seeing that so much. I mean, we are seeing it, but we're not seeing it where Christians are being destroyed by the Western world governments en masse because of their belief in God. That's not tied into it yet. That religious persecution is not, but you could see that could come. In fact, speaking about that, in the UK, we've already seen this kind of movement, and not just the UK, other Western societies, where there's a hatred towards Judeo-Christian, but the foundations of the Western world are being rejected. There's a lot of people that hate where the Western world has come from. So we kind of see that happening now. In the UK, I was just going to show a story here. Not only are people being locked up for social media posts or sharing somebody else's post or liking somebody else's post, as Joe Rogan was sharing there, but there's this example of this lady who has been caught multiple times praying outside of an abortion clinic, and she has been arrested and fined. And this is insanity. And you can see how this could move into a general over-the-top hatred towards Bible-believing Christians. It's already, the undertones are already there in our society. So somehow it gets twisted to the nth degree in the end times, and the devil's able to convince everybody that Christians need to die. So let's listen in on this one.
You are outside here when you know you shouldn't be. Okay. The public space protection order says not to be stood outside here, doesn't it?
I haven't seen that, no. It says protest.
Yeah, protest.
I'm not protesting.
But people know who you are and they know why you're here. Okay, then.
No, I'm not protesting.
But they will. And the people that persistently phone us, which are the residents and the people that use this place, are the ones that say that they know. And it's their perception of events, isn't it?
I'm silently praying, and that's all I'm doing.
Okay, and it's their perception of events, which is that you're protesting. Now, I get what you're saying. I completely understand where you're coming from. But it's people's perception, isn't it?
I think there has to be some measurable level of intimidation or harassment, and that's not something that I'm doing.
Okay,
I don't have any intention of it.
Okay, then. So, what we'll start with is we're going to issue you with a ticket now. And if you don't leave the area, you'll then be arrested. Do you understand that? Okay. I won't ask if you're happy with that, but you're happy that you understand the process.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
She was near an abortion clinic there praying silently. That is illegal. Or that's what this officer is saying. If you believe something is wrong, I know they're trying to protect their patrons, but you should be able to speak your voice, and that should just be part of it. It's a free society. You should be able to, on a public sidewalk, to be able to speak up, pray, stand there, hold signs, whatever you can, to speak your voice against this evil that you see going on. And that should be your right as an individual, whether you agree with that or not, whether you agree with her position or not. In this case, she's just simply praying and getting a ticket, and then she did get arrested. She talks about it here. The ADF is standing with Isabel. This isn't 1984. The UK Parliament should not be introducing the first thought crime into UK law. Yeah, really, because she's just not even speaking out loud. She's just standing there silently. Nope, you were praying. This is insanity. This is where it's going. The good news is the UK digital ID is not the mark of the beast. Not yet. But you can see how it's leading there. You can see why people are upset. I would love to know your thoughts on this. You know, is everybody getting too tinfoil hatty on this? Or should we legitimately be concerned? What was it, Reagan, that said the two scariest words are, I'm with the government and I'm here to help? Canada went too far during the convoy. That was just a piece of what could come. And we are praying that doesn't happen. Love to hear your comments. Please like, share, comment below. Thank you for listening. I think it's an important subject because we are in end time events. We can see it everywhere. It's definitely on the road to the mark of the beast, and hopefully not as close as we think it is. Thanks, like, subscribe, and we will see you on the other side.
He already done it.